Yun Sang-ho is working on a new zombie movie through which he can finally redeem the underwhelming sequel to Train to Busan. The zombie genre is full of hits and misses both in film and TV, but in 2016, Yun Sang-ho brought one of the biggest successes of the genre with Train to Busan. The film was a critical and commercial success, spawning a movie series with a prequel, a sequel, and an American remake that is currently trapped in development hell. Train to Busan follows Suk-woo, Gong-yo, a workaholic and divorced father taking his estranged daughter, Suwon, Kim Suwon, to Busan so she can spend her birthday with her. Once on the train, they learn about the sudden break of a zombie apocalypse, and, unfortunately, one of the passengers is infected. What follows is the rest of the passengers' desperate efforts to survive and get to Busan, the closest safe zone. Now, 5 years after Train to Busan sequel, Peninsula, Yun Sang-ho is working on a new zombie movie, Gunchae, which won't be a stranger from the world of Train to Busan. Gunchae will be set in Yun Sang-ho's Train to Busan universe. Gunchae is a new addition to the Train to Busan universe. Gong-yo looks over his shoulder while standing in the train aisle in Train to Busan. The last entry in the Train to Busan universe was the sequel Peninsula, in 2020, and since then, Yun Sang-ho has moved on to other projects. Yun has one movie, Revelations, released in 2025, and is now working on another zombie movie that's taking him back to the world of Train to Busan. In March 2025, it was reported that Yun's next project is Gunchae, with Jun Ji-hyun, Ji Chang-wook, and Koo Kyo-won already signed to be part of the cast. At the time of writing, there's no word on what Gunchae's English title will be. The announcement includes the confirmation of Gunchae being part of the Train to Busan saga, with distributor Showbox describing the project as the culmination of Yun's universe that began with Train to Busan and continued with Peninsula. However, it's unclear if Gunchae is a direct sequel to Train to Busan, Peninsula, or even Seoul Station, in which case it would be set between this and Train to Busan. Gunchae could also be a standalone sequel, meaning it would expand this universe without continuing where the previous movies left off. Gunchae must be a better sequel to Train to Busan than Peninsula. Peninsula completely failed as a sequel to Train to Busan. As mentioned above, Train to Busan got a continuation 4 years after its release. Titled Peninsula and also directed by Yun Sang-ho, the movie is a standalone sequel to Train to Busan, so none of the surviving characters are in it. Peninsula is set after Train to Busan, with South Korea now taken over by zombies. 4 years later, former soldier Jung-suk, Gang Dong-won, who years before let his sister be bitten by zombies after she refused to leave her infected son, is recruited along with 2 others by Chinese mobsters to retrieve a truck with millions of dollars in South Korea. However, the zombies aren't the only obstacle they have to face during this mission, as others are also interested in taking the money at any cost. Peninsula performed well at the box office, grossing $42.7 million against a $16 million budget, but it didn't really match the quality and success of Train to Busan. Peninsula has a 55% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics calling it disappointing and generic, and finding that it forgot everything that made Train to Busan so good. However, most agreed that fans of Train to Busan would find Peninsula entertaining. At least, general audiences were a bit more welcoming of Peninsula, giving it a 76% popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes, yet still not enough to match Train to Busan, which has a 95% critics score and an 89% popcorn meter. Viewers liked the combination of a more fast-paced action movie with a zombie setting but admitted that it didn't capture the essence, greatness, and horror factor of Train to Busan. Whether Gunchae is a direct sequel to the previous movies or a standalone one, it must learn from Peninsula's mistakes and make up for its disappointment as a Train to Busan movie. At least Train to Busan's prequel movie was a great addition to the franchise. Seoul Station benefited the Train to Busan universe. Where Peninsula failed, Seoul Station had already succeeded. Just a couple of months after Train to Busan was released, the animated prequel Seoul Station was released, written and directed by Yun Sang-ho. Seoul Station explores the beginning of the zombie epidemic scene in Train to Busan, and for that, it follows 3 characters, a young sex worker called Hae-sun, her father Suk-jiu, and her boyfriend Ki-woong. The latter 2 are trying to find Hae-sun as the zombie epidemic quickly rises, with some dark secrets about all of them being revealed in the process. Seoul Station was a critical and commercial success, and it managed to replicate what made Train to Busan so good, a personal story amid the suspense and horror of the zombie epidemic. Gunchae is already an exciting project simply because it's part of the world of Train to Busan, but it must learn from what made Train to Busan and Seoul Station so good and what made Peninsula fail.